Okay, I've watched a little more of this video. So there's a few key things that he makes comments on. Is his claim of cartoon physics, of how the plane can just cut right through that when they're like saying, when his claim is those were just, the wings would just snap off or buckle, that they won't be able to penetrate fully through and you see debris. Which, after you do see debris, let's see if it is visible, it is not. That is the reason Building 3 was evacuated, the Marriott Hotel, is because part of American 11's engine pushed through the entire way, went through and through, and crashed on top of the rooftop. That's the reason Building 3 was evacuated. And thank God that happened, and also thank God for the 93 bombing, because that's the reason so many people survived in Building 3, because it was fully evacuated. Minus a handful of people and a few idiots that decided to stick around instead of, evacuating. Can't think of his name. I'm going to criticize him again in a few points. Another thing you claim about is that the aircraft could not reach that speed at sea level. One key thing is your claim is that falls through your claim is, remember, this plane was in a rapid descent. That at points the plane was probably passing near 10,000 feet a minute descent rate, which is on par with a complete emergency descent, whatnot. And the plane could easily pick that up. Like, okay, so I'm running through simulators 24/7. I spend way too much time on them. A 767 at 2,500 feet a minute descent rate is already trying to go over speed unless you have the engines completely rolled back and you have the speed brakes deployed. The plane in a rapid descent over 2,500 feet, it could easily pass 550 knots especially if you have the engines running at max RPM. Which, honestly, the hijackers more than likely also had the engines slammed entirely to the maximum operating setting, which would be the go-around power almost, which would be past the plane's operational limits. These are just for the severe emergency. You need that little extra push of thrust for a few seconds to go around almost, or in case of some situations, to be able to climb out rapidly. So that's one key thing that is left out here, is the aircraft's ability to super late nights, is that the aircraft was also in a rapid descent, as noted by several of the passengers and crew that were on the phone calling, as well as noting the severe unstable flying maneuvers of the hijackers, which, as noted by one passenger, they did discuss trying to retake control of the plane just from how severe unstable the plane was by them, the way they were flying in. Okay, and for the claim of the plane's wingtips would not be able to slice through, I'll raise you. We know American 77 at the Pentagon tore through several light poles before it sliced into the structure. That's one example of that. Those wings can just pop off to hit any resistance, because planes are tough. You got 707s, DC-8s that have been hit by missiles, that have collided mid-air with another aircraft, and the pilots were able to land the plane safely, or just keep it in the air long enough. Why not? Hell, bloody Pan Am 214, I think is the flight number. They lost their entire wing, and the pilots were able to keep the plane flying for a few seconds by severe aeronautical Pan Am, pretty much. What a pilot can do with an aircraft, it's staggering. A pilot knows the aircraft, and with the cartoon physics effect claim, let me reference back to LR 1862, which, let me pull up the picture I have of it on my iPad. Again, this is true professional quality right here, what I'm doing, because I have the technical knowledge of a goldfish, among other things. I'm part of the goldfish. Let's see. It's not this far back. Okay, let me almost drop my iPad. Here is one of the famous pictures of the aftermath of the crash of LR 1862. Let me turn my brightness up. What am I doing? Technology is not being my friend. I don't even volume. This is the aftermath of a 747 impact into an apartment complex. Planes just right bang, 90-degree nosedived into the ground. Which would the same argument of saying, oh, that's cartoon physics, of the plane just evaporating right into the building, of just cutting through it like a knife. Would that still apply here, or does that not apply to non-9/11 arguments? And then we also do have common claims of saying, well, a plane would just leave evidence and whatnot, or the claim of, well, the wings would pop off, the tail would survive, this, that, this. I'm also going to raise another incident, ValueJet 592. This is a picture of the impact point, which ValueJet 592 is also commonly referenced when it comes to United 93, which this is one I used to reference as well. If people are like, oh, United 93 is so unrealistic of a crash, of an impact rating, here's another impact rating identical to it almost. And then of impact, this is Pacific Southwest Airlines Flight 1771. This is the impact zone of where the plane hit the ground, which this plane actually hit the ground at a near twice speed of United 93 or even ValueJet, as this plane actually broke a sound barrier before it hit the ground. And that aircraft in that incident was a BAE 146, such as this aircraft in question, while the El Al jet was a 747-200 freighter. Okay, let's see if there's anything else I can directly use on here. Let's see. And also the claim of, yes, comparing someone walking on a wing. Also, I love the use of the MD-80 test flight video. That might have been the MD-87 actually. That was doing testing for the new design, which they clearly had to go back on that to repair, to re-strengthen that section of fuselage. And also the pilot had to recover from a broken ankle from that nice hard landing. But another comparison would be to, like, there were several videos, I think this is out and upon Airways, of a 767 of similar model to United 175 and American 11 having a severe hard landing at Narita International, of the plane having a bounce that it cracked its fuselage. You can see the literal crack in its airframe running along the frame of it. And the aircraft stayed intact, which again shows how sturdy these things are. And again, just aircraft are a lot stronger than most people tend to think they are, because most people, when they think of planes, they usually think of I don't even know what people think of nowadays, honestly. I'm a bit outdated when it comes to with these references, obviously. But when you look at incidents such as like Pacific Southwest Airlines Flight 182, where a plane nosedived into a neighborhood in San Diego, there were some intact pieces of the plane, but not too much compared to some of the other incidents. Then also you got the Screaming Superman, which, good God, that's horrifying with that guy. You got American 191, which came down at a lot slower speed, so a lot more of the plane was intact compared to some of these other incidents. But that's the one thing people do to stop, people leave out in these incidents and arguing on 9/11 is they do not take into account the speed. Because there's one thing of saying, oh, how fast is the plane going in the air? Let's say 250 knots, because that's pretty much the speed restriction below 10,000 feet in the United States. So 250 knots at, let's say, 9,000 feet in a 767 is probably 330, 340 knots at ground speed. Like, okay, so let's say I have a 767-200 rocketing down the runway here at Denver International. Planes showed airspeed is saying, let's say we're going 80 knots now. Ground speed is probably about 100 knots. It's the more altitude you gain, again, less density, less whatnot. Airplane's ground speed is going to be always far higher than the plane's airspeed. Which again, things that people leave out in these arguments. And because also one thing is also that should be noted is I'm losing my train of thought. I am very tired at the moment. with Richard Hall's comment, and also with I think her name was Judy. I would have completely forgot about how sensitive the wingtips are. Her claim is accurate but not accurate at the same time. If they don't want people climbing on them in an event of an emergency, but in an event, the plane's tips are sturdy enough to be able to. Oh, actually, now I think of it, actually, now I'm saying this, her claim is actually completely inaccurate, because a wingtips need to be sturdy enough and strong enough to support, or else they would flutter in flight and cause severe flood in the airframe. It could actually cause the plane to disintegrate, as we saw in Falls Creek, I don't remember, a brand FBAC 111 that flew into a severe storm, and the buffeting and flutter from the severe turbulence ripped the plane apart and caused it to crash and killed everyone on board. So wingtips are heavily reinforced, as if we saw with the Boeing 747 prototype, the 100, the 200 model, and also with the El Al incident in Amsterdam. These aircraft wings for these models have depleted uranium in the wings to weigh them down, to make sure to reduce this flooding, and also as we see in flight. So next time you're on a plane, watch the wing, because you'll see these kind of drooping towards the ground because of the extra weight of fuel and just the aircraft itself. But as you're picking up speed, you'll see the wing start to kind of level off, and then you'll see it flex upwards of when it's truly generating lift. As we can see on like an aircraft like the 787 with its very generous amount of flexing. But a lot of these claims are fairly inaccurate when it comes to this. Honestly, like, what would be another good incident for reference? Another incident would be we see this all the time when a plane has a CFIT incident or a controlled flight into terrain. Like, you'll see the plane's wingtips cutting through trees as it goes, before finally its point of resistance is met and it snaps and shears off, and the plane enters a fatal act, as we've seen with American 965, the Dag Hammarskjöld crash in 1960, Northwest Airlink flight, I can't think of its name, and Alitalia 404. These aircraft went through 400 plus feet of trees before they lost a chunk before the wing gave. 400 feet of trees and other surfaces would be it's nothing compared to, would be far more of a resistance compared to a single steel beam that these planes would be cutting through. Well, I mean, I think what I'm trying to say makes sense. I don't know. It'd be one point of impact for the entire of the wing structure of cutting through these different steel beams versus hitting 400 plus feet of trees. That's constant impact and also deceleration, because that's the thing with the planes. Also, that's one of my mentality things is if you're striking trees, odds are you're not going to be able to pull out of it. You're not going to be able to gun it and climb. You're going to want to put the thing on the ground fast as humanly possible before your wing gives way. It just all comes down to luck sometimes with it. And because of Skylobby and Building 2, that's what saved several thousands of lives, is because the Skylobby elevator shafts and motors is what saved Stairwell C from being destroyed. Okay, and this will be my next, probably one more video after watching the rest of this video.